The emergency transmission crackled through the Galactic Council chamber for the third day in a row. The Velen ambassador stood at the center of the hall, his thin body shaking as he played the distress call again. On the massive holographic screen above, fire consumed entire cities. Ships fell from orbit like dying stars. The Krethic swarm covered the sky of his homeworld like a living storm. "Please," the ambassador begged, his voice breaking. "My people have only days left. We need help now." The council members shifted in their seats. Some looked away. Others whispered among themselves. They had seen this before. 5 civilizations had already fallen to the Krethic swarm in the past 10 years. The swarm consumed everything. They left nothing behind but empty worlds. Admiral Hayne watched the transmission from the human embassy booth. His gray uniform was crisp and clean. His face showed no emotion, but his hands gripped the armrest of his chair. Next to him, Dr. Yuna leaned forward, her dark eyes fixed on the dying world on the screen. "They're not going to help," she whispered. "Look at them. They're too afraid." Yuna nodded slowly. He had been watching the council debate for 3 days now. 3 days while people died. 3 days while politicians talked about protocol and procedure and the proper channels for military intervention. On the screen, a Velen child ran through burning streets. The transmission cut to static. The council speaker stood. He was a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms. "We must consider the risks," he announced. "The Krethic swarm has never been defeated. We could lose our entire defense fleet. We need more time to plan." "There is no more time," the Velen ambassador shouted. The council chamber erupted in argument. Aliens spoke over each other in a dozen different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Heen stood. He pressed the communication button on his console. "This is Admiral Heon of Earth's First Contact Fleet. I request permission to speak." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human section. Earth was new to the council. They had only joined 5 years ago. Most species still didn't trust them. Humans came from a Class 12 death world. That meant their planet was one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. Most council members had never even visited Earth. The gravity alone would crush them. "You may speak," the council speaker said carefully. Hin walked to the center of the chamber. He moved with easy confidence, despite the lower gravity. Most species here found Earth's gravity impossible to handle. "How long have you been debating?" he asked. 3 days, the speaker replied. "These matters require careful consideration." 3 days, Hyun repeated. He looked around the chamber. "In 3 days, how many Valens have died?" Silence. "Millions," the Velen ambassador said quietly. "We've lost millions." Hyun nodded. "The Earth fleet will deploy immediately. We'll leave within 18 hours. The chamber exploded with voices again. The council speaker raised all 4 arms. "That's impossible. You need authorization. You need battle plans. You need supply lines. You can't just watch us," Human said. Back at the human embassy, Captain Nari was already in her flight suit. She had been listening to the council debates from the hangar bay of her ship. When Hyen's message came through, she smiled. She knew her admiral. She knew what he would do. "All pilots to their ships," she ordered. "We launch in 17 hours. Get some sleep if you can. This won't be easy." Crew didn't hesitate. They had been waiting for this. The hangar bay came alive with activity. Mechanics ran final checks on the fighters. Supply officers loaded weapons and ammunition. The human ships were different from the sleek vessels used by other species. They were thick and heavy, covered in armor plating. They used old-fashioned nuclear engines that most aliens considered primitive. Dr. Yuna found Hyen in his office aboard the flagship Indomitable. He was studying tactical displays of the Velen system. "The Council is furious," she said. "They're saying you violated protocol. They might expel Earth from the Council." "Let them," Heon replied, without looking up. "We didn't crawl out of Earth's gravity well to watch civilizations die." Yuna sat down. "Heon, the Krethic swarm destroyed 5 civilizations. They have millions of bioships. The largest fleet ever assembled. What makes you think we can win?" Now Heon looked at her. because they've never fought humans before. That's not a plan, Yuna said. No, Yuna agreed, but it's a start. He pulled up a new display. It showed the human fleet. 37 warships. 500 fighters. 20,000 crew members. Look at what we're bringing. The Council species use energy shields and plasma weapons. Very elegant. Very clean. But look at our weapons. Yuna studied the list. Railguns that fired solid metal at a fraction of light speed. Nuclear missiles. Kinetic kill vehicles. Even old-fashioned explosive rounds. They'll call us barbarians, she said. They already do, Hyun replied. Earth is a death world. We evolve fighting every day just to survive. Our oceans have creatures that hunt in packs. Our plants can kill. Our weather can destroy cities. We had to become strong or die. The Council species evolved on paradise worlds. They've never known real war. You think that makes us better? Yuna asked. No, Hyun said quietly. It makes us ready. 18 hours later, the human fleet departed from Earth orbit. The Galactic Council sent a formal protest. Hyun deleted it without reading. He stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the stars stretch into lines as they jumped to faster than light speed. Captain Nera's voice came over the communications channel. Admiral, all ships report ready. Course set for the Velen system. Estimated arrival, 14 days. Acknowledged, Hyun replied. All hands, this is the Admiral. We're going to save a civilization. The Krethic swarm thinks they're unstoppable. Let's show them what Deathworlders can do. Behind him, Dr. Yuna hoped they weren't making a terrible mistake. Ahead of them, the Velen system waited, and surrounding it like a dark cloud. Millions of Krethic bioships prepared to finish their feast. The human fleet charged forward into the darkness. The Velen system appeared on the screens like a nightmare. Admiral Haon stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and counted the enemy ships. 1 million. 2 million. The computer gave up counting at 5 million. The Krethic bioships filled the space around the planet like insects. Each one was alive, grown instead of built. They pulsed with organic light. God help us, someone whispered. God isn't here, Hyun replied calmly. But we are. He opened the fleet channel. All ships. Battle formation Delta. Fighters launch in 30 seconds. Captain Nari was already in her cockpit. Her fighter hummed with power. Around her, 499 other pilots prepared to launch. Through her canopy, she could see the Krethic swarm. She had never seen so many ships in one place. Scared? Her wingmen asked over the radio. Terrified, Nari replied honestly. But they should be more scared of us. On the Indomitable, Lieutenant Sora studied her weapons console. She was young for a weapons officer, only 26 years old. But she could see patterns in enemy movements that the computer couldn't. It was like music to her. The chaos of battle had a rhythm. Enemy ships moving to intercept, she reported. They're trying to surround us. Let them, Hyun said. Sora, prepare firing solution Gamma. Sora's hands flew across her controls. Admiral Gamma solution requires us to fire through our own formation. We could hit our own ships. I trust your aim, Hyun said. In the hangar bay, Commander Taiyang checked his powered armor one last time. He led the Marine boarding teams. His left arm was cybernetic, replaced after an accident years ago. The metal arm was stronger than his original. He could crush steel with it. Listen up, he told his Marines. The Krethic ships are alive. That means they breathe. They need atmosphere. They have weak points. We find those points and we hurt them. His Marines nodded. They were all veterans. They all came from Earth. They all knew what it meant to fight for survival. A Velen shuttle approached the Indomitable. Inside was Envoy Lithsarin, the last diplomat alive from the Velen government. He had volunteered to serve as liaison with the human fleet. Now, as his shuttle docked, he wondered if he had made a mistake. He had seen the human ships. They looked brutal, covered in weapons and armor. No elegance. No beauty. Just raw destructive power. Dr. Yuna met him at the airlock. Welcome aboard, Envoy. I'm Dr. Yuna. I'll be your guide. Elyssaren bowed. His people were tall and thin with pale skin. Earth's gravity made him feel heavy. Thank you for coming, he said. But I must warn you. The Krethic swarm has never been defeated. You're flying into certain death. We'll see, Yuna replied. She took him to the bridge just as the battle began. The Krethic swarm moved first. Millions of bioships surged forward like a wave. They had no formation. No strategy. Just overwhelming numbers. Here they come, Sora said. Impact. In 40 seconds. All ships open fire, Han ordered. The human fleet unleashed everything. Railguns fired solid metal slugs at incredible speed. The rounds punched through Krethic ships like paper. Nuclear missiles streaked across space, each one carrying enough power to destroy a city. When they hit, they turned bioships into vapor. Elyssaren watched in horror. You're using nuclear weapons? In space combat? They work, Hyun said simply. Captain Nari led her fighter squadron into the swarm. The Krethic ships tried to swarm them, but human fighters were fast. Nari spun her ship through impossible maneuvers. The GI forces would have killed most aliens. She barely noticed. She fired her magnetic harpoon missiles into a bioship. The missiles attached and pulled her fighter close. Then she fired her main guns at point-blank range. The bioship exploded. She was already moving to the next target.
Oh, this is Alpha Leader,
she called. Enemy ships can't handle close combat. Get in tight. Her squadron followed her lead. They dove into the densest parts of the swarm. The Krethic ships collided with each other, trying to reach the human fighters. Nari smiled. Chaos was her friend. On the Indomitable, Sora saw her opportunity. Admiral, I have a shot. But I need to fire through our fighter formation. Will you hit our people? Heian asked. No, sir, Sora said confidently. Then fire. Sora pressed the trigger. The Indomitable's main railgun fired around the size of a truck. It passed within meters of Nari's fighter. Nari didn't even flinch. The round continued through the swarm, hitting a massive bioship that seemed to be coordinating the others. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Good shot, Heian said. The battle raged for an hour. Then 2, then 6. The Krethic kept coming. For every ship the humans destroyed, 10 more took its place. But the human fleet didn't break. They kept firing. Kept fighting. Elyssaren watched in amazement. Your crews. They should be exhausted. How are they still fighting? Because we have to, Yuna replied. That's how Deathworlders survive. Commander Taiyang got his chance when a damaged Krethic ship drifted close to the Indomitable. Boarding teams go. His marines launched from the assault pods. They slammed into the bioship's hull and cut their way inside. The interior was dark and wet. It smelled like rotting meat. Krethic warriors waited for them. They were insect-like creatures with sharp claws and harder shells. The Marines opened fire. Their weapons were loud and violent. Not elegant like galactic plasma rifles, just brutal kinetic rounds that shredded everything they hit. The Krethic warriors fell. Taiyang led his team deeper into the ship. They found the heart of the vessel, a massive chamber that pulsed like a living organ. Plant the charges, he ordered. They set their explosives and retreated. The bioship exploded behind them as they launched back to the Indomitable. Boarding successful, Taiyang reported. Enemy ship destroyed? The Krethic swarm finally seemed to notice the humans were different. They had never faced an enemy that fought like this. Most species surrendered when the odds were impossible. Humans just fought harder. The swarm tried something new. 1 million bioships concentrated their fire on the Indomitable. Energy blasts hammered the shields. Shields at 40%, someone called. 30%. 20%. Hyun didn't move. Hold course. Sora, do you have a shot? Yes, sir, Sora replied. But we need to wait 3 more seconds. The shields failed. Energy blasts hit the hull directly. Alarms screamed. But the Indomitable was built on Earth. It was built to take punishment. Fire. Hyan ordered. So RA fired every weapon at once. The massive volley tore through the concentrated swarm formation. Hundreds of ships exploded. Shields back online, the engineer reported. Hull damage minimal. Lysoran stared at the humans. They had just survived what should have been certain death, and they were already moving to their next target. What are you? He whispered. Dr. Yuna heard him. She smiled sadly. We're from Earth, she said. We're Deathworlders. We don't know how to quit. The battle continued through the night. The human fleet fought without stopping. They rotated crews in shifts. They repaired damage on the fly. They kept fighting, and slowly, impossibly, they began to win. The battle entered its third day. Most galactic species would have collapsed from exhaustion by now. The human crews rotated in shifts, sleeping for hours at a time before returning to their stations. They ate quick meals at their posts. They kept fighting. Commander Taiyang's boarding team hit another Krethic bioship. This one was bigger, older. The interior was a maze of organic passages. His 20 Marines spread out, placing explosives at key points. Everything went according to plan until the ship's immune system activated. The passages began to close. Thick membranes grew across corridors, sealing the Marines inside. Taiyang tried to cut through with his combat knife, but the membranes regrew as fast as he cut them. Commander, we're trapped, one of his Marines reported. The charges are set, but we can't reach the extraction point. Taiyang checked his air supply. 6 hours left. The explosives would detonate in 26 hours. Then we wait, he said calmly. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Hayan received the report. Envoy Lithsarin was shocked. You'll abandon them? No, Heon said. But we can't extract them right now. So they'll survive until we can. For 26 hours? Inside an enemy ship? They're Marines, Hyun replied. They've trained for worse. Inside the bioship, Taiyang gathered his team. Listen up. We have air for 6 hours. After that, we use the ship's atmosphere. Sir, this ship breathes methane, a Marine said. That's toxic to humans. So we don't breathe it, Taiyang replied. He pointed to a large chamber ahead. That looks like a lung. We flood it with oxygen from our tanks. Set it on fire. The ship will pump in more atmosphere to compensate. We filter that through our suits. That's insane, someone muttered. That's Earth, Taiyang corrected. He smiled. Let's show these bugs what Deathworlders can do. They executed his plan. The fire spread through the ship's respiratory system. The bioship screamed, a sound they could feel through the hull. But it worked. They survived. On the Indomitable, Engineer Doyon hadn't slept in 40 hours. He was in the reactor room, covered in grease and sweat. The ship's reactor was running at 140% capacity. The manual said that would cause a meltdown within minutes. Doyon, you need to reduce power, the bridge called. You're going to kill us all. The Admiral needs weapons, Doyon replied. Weapons need power. So the reactor stays hot. It modified the cooling systems himself. Added redundancies that the original designers never thought of. Rerouted power flows to reduce stress. The reactor screamed, but it held. Doyon patted the metal housing. Come on, girl. I know you can do this. Reactor responded with a surge of power. More energy than the designers thought possible. Doyen laughed. That's what I'm talking about. In the medical bay, Medicana worked without stopping. The wounded kept coming. Human and Velen both. She treated them all the same. A Velen soldier arrived with severe burns. His ship had been hit. He was dying. I'm sorry, another medic said. We don't know enough about Velen biology. We can't. I can, Hannah interrupted. She had studied every species in the fleet during the 2-week journey. She knew Velen anatomy now. Her hands moved with confidence, treating the burns, stabilizing his vital signs. An alarm sounded. The Indomitable shook from weapons fire. Emergency lights flickered. We need to evacuate the medical bay, someone shouted. Not yet, Hannah said. She was in the middle of surgery. Give me 2 minutes. We might not have 2 minutes. Hannah didn't look up. Her hands stayed steady. She closed the final incision just as another blast hit the ship. The lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in seconds later. The Velen soldier was alive. Now we can evacuate, Hannah said. Then she returned to the combat area to help the wounded Marines. Private Minho was on his first real combat deployment. He was 19 years old, fresh from training. His unit was defending a damaged human frigate that couldn't retreat. Krethik warriors swarmed the hangar bay. Minho fired his rifle until it ran dry. He switched to his pistol. When that was empty, he drew his knife. A Krethik warrior's claw caught his left arm. The armor held for a second, then failed. The claw cut clean through. Minho's arm fell to the deck. He should have gone into shock. Most species would have died instantly from the pain. Minho looked at his missing arm, then at the Krethik warrior. "That was my good arm," he said. He drove his knife into the warrior's weak point with his remaining hand. The creature fell. Minho picked up a fallen rifle with his right arm and kept fighting. His armor's medical systems pumped him full of drugs to stop the bleeding. He didn't stop until all the Krethik were dead, when the medics finally reached him. They found him sitting on a pile of dead aliens, his face pale, but his eyes alert. "Hey," he said weakly. "At least I still have 3 limbs. That's better than my first training accident." The story spread through the fleet. The Velens heard it too. They couldn't believe it. A human who lost an arm and kept fighting, and he joked about it? Envoy Lith Saran spoke with Dr. Yuna about it. "How is this possible? Your species should be dead. The injuries your people survive, the pain they endure. It's not natural." Yuna pulled up a holographic display of Earth. "Look at our world," she said. "See those oceans? They contain creatures that hunt in packs, predators that can bite through steel. Our land has animals that can run for days without stopping. Our plants have toxins that can kill. Our weather creates storms with winds that destroy cities." She zoomed in on different regions. "We evolved in Africa, where everything wanted to eat us. We survived ice ages that killed most other species. We climbed mountains that reach into space. We dove to the deepest parts of our oceans. We did this without technology, just our bodies and our minds. But why?" Lissarin asked. "Why push so hard?" "Because if we didn't, we died," Yuna said simply. "Earth doesn't forgive weakness. So we became strong. We became persistent. We learned to endure pain. We learned to keep fighting when fighting seemed impossible." She closed the display. "Your people evolved on a paradise world. Beautiful weather, abundant food, no major predators. You never had to fight for survival every single day. So your bodies are gentle. Your minds expect peace. There's nothing wrong with that. But Earth made us different. 26 hours after Taiyang's team got trapped, the Indomitable fought its way to their bioship. They extracted all 20 Marines, all alive. They had survived by turning the enemy ship into their own weapon. Taiyang reported to the bridge with burns on his armor and a smile on his face. "Good work." Commander Admiral Han said, "Just another day." Sir Taiyang replied. The Velens who witnessed the extraction started calling the humans something new. Not the humans anymore. Now they said the ones who don't break. The name spread. Even the Krethik swarm seemed to notice. The bioships started avoiding the human fleet. They preferred to attack Velen defenses instead. They had learned fear, but the battle was far from over. The Krethik swarms still numbered in the millions. The human fleet was down to 30 ships, 400 fighters, hundreds of wounded. They had been fighting for 72 hours straight. Admiral Hayon studied the tactical display. The Krethik were adapting, learning. They wouldn't make the same mistakes twice. He needed a new strategy, something the swarm wouldn't expect. He called his senior officers to a meeting. Captain Nari arrived, still in her flight suit, dirt on her face. Commander Taiyang smelled like smoke. Engineer Doyon left the reactor room for the first time in 3 days. Lieutenant Sora came from her weapons station. Dr. Yuna and Envoy Lithsaren joined them. "We've hurt them," Hyun said. "But we can't win like this. They have too many ships, We need to cut off the head, Queen Mind, Sora said. She pulled up a scan. There, that massive bioship in the center. It's coordinating everything, Yo nodded. If we kill it, the swarm falls apart. How do we reach it? Nari asked. It's protected by 1,000,000 other ships. Hien smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. We used the Prometheus protocol. The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Everyone knew the cost. The Prometheus protocol was designed as a last resort. Take a ship. Fill it with antimatter. Fly it into the enemy's most important target. Detonate. The explosion would be visible across star systems. It would also kill everyone involved. Envoy Lith Seren was horrified. This is a war crime. The Galactic Council will never allow it. The Council isn't here, Admiral Haiyan replied calmly. And the Velans are dying while politicians debate ethics. But you'll kill your own people. Only volunteers, Haiyan said. He opened the fleet communication channel. This is Admiral Haiyan. I need volunteers for a one-way mission. You will not return, but you will save millions of lives. If you're interested, report to Hangar Bay 3. The channel went silent. Then one voice responded. This is Captain Seojin of the stealth ship Whisper. I'll do it. More voices followed. Dozens of them. Pilots, engineers, soldiers, all volunteering. All knowing they would die, Hyun felt a weight in his chest. Captain Seojin, you're approved. Everyone else, I need you alive for what comes next. Seojin, report to my office. Captain Seojin arrived 10 minutes later. He was young, only 32. He had a wife back on Earth, 2 children. Hyun had met them once at a fleet ceremony. He remembered their faces. Are you sure about this? Hyun asked. Yes, sir. Seojin replied. My father died fighting pirates near Europa. He saved a colony ship. I grew up knowing he died for something important. If I die, I want it to mean something too. Hyun wanted to find another way, but there wasn't one. You'll have support. Scientist Mingi is working on a quantum escape system. It might give you a chance to survive. Might? Seojin smiled. I'll take it. Scientist Minji was already modifying the Whisper. She was a quantum physicist, one of the smartest people in the fleet. She had been working on a theoretical escape system for 3 years. Now, she had 4 hours to make it real. Here's the problem, she explained to Seojin. When the antimatter detonates, the explosion happens faster than light can travel. But quantum tunneling might let you escape in the microsecond before the reaction completes. What are my odds? Seojin asked. 12%, Minji said honestly. Maybe less. The calculations have too many variables. 12 is better than 0, Seojin replied. While Mingi worked, Admiral Hain briefed the second part of the plan. Colonel Yunji stood at attention as he explained. She commanded the special operations teams. 50 operators. The best of the best. The Queen Mine ship has shields, Hien said. We can't penetrate them from outside. You need to board the ship and take them down from inside. Youngji studied the scans of the ship. It was massive. Kilometers long. Organic armor thicker than any human ship. We'll need to fight through the entire vessel to reach the shield generators. Can you do it? Hyun asked. Yoonji looked at her operators. They were ready. They were always ready. Yes, sir, but we might not make it out. I know, Haiyan said quietly. I'll understand if you refuse. Youngji shook her head. We're operators, sir. This is what we do. The plan came together quickly. Captain Nari would lead a fighter assault to create an opening. Colonel Youngji's team would board the Queen Mine ship. They would fight to the shield generators and take them offline. Then Captain Seojin would deliver the antimatter bomb. Timing would be critical. If the shields were still up when Seojin arrived, he would die for nothing. The fleet prepared. Engineer Doyen personally loaded the antimatter into the Whisper. Each container held enough energy to vaporize a moon. He sealed them with hands that didn't shake. Bring this back safe, he told Seojin. The calculations say you have a chance. I will, Seojin promised. The attack began at dawn on the fourth day of battle. The human fleet had been fighting for 96 hours. Crews ran on stimulants and willpower. Ships held together with emergency repairs, but they still had fight left in them. All ships advance, Admiral Hayan ordered. Target the Queen Mind's ship. Everything we have. The fleet charged forward. The Krethik swarm responded with everything. Millions of bioships swarmed to protect their queen. Space became a storm of weapons fire. Ships exploded every second. The casualties were terrible, but the humans kept pushing. Captain Nari led her squadron into the thickest fighting. They had 200 fighters left. They needed to clear a path to the Queen Mind ship. Stay tight, she called. Don't break formation. Her pilots followed her through impossible maneuvers. They flew between bioships, using the enemy's own mass against them. Krethik vessels collided with each other. Nari's squadron shot through the gaps. They lost 20 fighters in the first minute, 40 in the second, but they reached the Queen Mind ship. Boarding teams go. Colonel Yunji commanded. Assault pods launched from the Indomitable. They crossed the distance in seconds, slamming into the Queen Mind ship's hull. Yunji's operators cut through the organic armor and pushed inside. The interior was a nightmare. Dark passages filled with hostile atmosphere. Krethik warriors waiting in ambush. Yunji's team moved fast, fighting through room after room. Their weapons echoed in the confined spaces. Krethik fell, but so did humans. 10 operators down, someone reported. Keep moving, Yunji ordered. They couldn't stop. Every second counted. They reached the shield generator chamber 30 minutes later. It was enormous, pulsing with bioluminescent light. Krethik warriors poured in from every entrance. Yunji's team formed a defensive perimeter. Plant the charges, Yunji shouted. We just need to hold for 2 minutes. 2 minutes felt like forever. The operators fired until their weapons ran dry. Then they used their backup weapons. When those were empty, they fought hand to hand. The Krethik kept coming. Yunji took a hit to her side. The pain was incredible. She ignored it and kept fighting. Around her, her team was dying. But they didn't break. They never broke. Charges set. Someone yelled, "Detonate." Yunji ordered. The explosion tore through the chamber. The shield generators exploded in a cascade of energy. The Queen Mind ship's shields flickered and died. Yunji activated her radio. The signal was weak, damaged by the blast. Admiral, shields down. You're clear, acknowledged. Hyan's voice came back. Seojin, you have a green light. Captain Seojin pushed his ship to maximum speed. The Whisper was designed for stealth, not combat. But now it carried the most important payload in the war. Every human ship provided covering fire. They threw themselves between Seojin and the enemy. Ships died to buy him seconds. Entering final approach, Seojin reported. His voice was calm. Antimatter armed. Quantum escape system ready. Thought about his family. He thought about his father. He thought about all the people who would live because of what happened next. Target locked, he said. I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye. The Whisper slammed into the Queen Mind ship at a significant fraction of light speed. Seojin activated the quantum escape system. Reality twisted around him. He felt himself torn apart and reassembled. The antimatter detonated. The explosion was blinding. It expanded faster than thought. The Queen Mind ship vanished in an instant. The blast wave consumed everything around it. Thousands of bioships simply ceased to exist. The light was visible from 3 star systems away. On the Indomitable, Admiral Hayan watched the blast. He had just sent good people to their deaths. He felt every loss like a knife in his heart, but he kept his face calm. His crew needed him to be strong. Report, he ordered. Queen Mind ship destroyed. Lieutenant Sora confirmed. The Krethik swarm is... They're not moving. They're just floating. Without the Queen Mind to coordinate them, the Krethik bioships were lost. They drifted without purpose. Some attacked each other. Some simply shut down. All ships, Hayan ordered. Begin cleanup operations. Destroy every Krethic vessel. Show no mercy. The human fleet moved through the paralyzed swarm, eliminating bioships one by one. It was grim work, but necessary. They couldn't leave any alive. Then a signal came through. Weak, barely detectable. This is Seojin. Anyone there? The bridge erupted in chaos. He's alive. Someone shouted, "Location." Hien demanded. "Vel in orbit," Sora replied. "His ship is destroyed, but he's in an escape pod." Recovery teams launched immediately. They found Seojin floating in space, his pod damaged but functional. He was alive. Somehow, impossibly, he had survived. A second signal came through. This one from the wreckage of the Queen Mine ship. "This is Colonel Yunji. We have 12 survivors. Request immediate extraction." Now, 12 out of 50. Yunji had known it would cost lives, but they had succeeded. The battle was over. The cleanup took another week. The human fleet moved through the Velen system, destroying every remaining Krethic bioship. There were millions of them now, just floating debris without the Queen Mine to guide them. Some tried to flee. The humans hunted them down. Some tried to fight. The humans killed them. None escaped. Admiral Heian stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the last bioship explode. Around him, his crew looked exhausted. They had been fighting for 11 days straight. Some had injuries. All had nightmares. But they had one final count, he said quietly. Lieutenant Sora read from her console. "We destroyed 5.3 million Krethic bioships. 0 survivors detected. The threat is eliminated." "Our losses?" Sora paused. Her voice dropped. 8 ships destroyed completely. All remaining ships have significant damage. We lost 132 fighters out of 500. Casualty count, 4,719 dead. 6,208 wounded. 23% of the fleet, gone. On Earth, that would be considered catastrophic. But they had saved an entire civilization. The Velens still lived. Their cities could be rebuilt. Their children would grow up safe. "Tell all ships to stand down," Hien ordered. "And someone get me a status report on Captain Seojin and Colonel Yunji." Captain Seojin was in medical bay. His body had been torn apart at the quantum level and reassembled. Madik Hannah said he would live, but he needed time to heal. His wife would see him again. His children would have their father. Colonel Yunji was recovering too. She had taken 3 direct hits during the shield generator assault. Her armor had saved her life, but barely. Of her 50 operators, only 12 survived. She visited each one personally, telling them they were heroes. They had saved everyone. Down on the Velen homeworld, the cities celebrated. They had watched the battle from the ground. They had seen the human ships fighting against impossible odds. They had seen the flash when the Queen Mine died. Now they were free. Envoy Lith Saran organized a memorial ceremony. The Velens built monuments in the capital city. 50 tall pillars, one for each of Colonel Yunji's team who didn't return. Thousands of smaller markers for every human who died. The inscription on the central monument read, "They came from Death's world and brought life to ours." But while the Velens celebrated, the Galactic Council panicked. An emergency session was called. Representatives from 100 species gathered to watch recordings of the battle. They saw the nuclear weapons. They saw the boarding actions. They saw the antimatter explosion. They saw what humans were capable of. "This cannot stand," one representative declared. "Humans are too dangerous. They violated every convention of civilized warfare. They saved an entire species," another argued. "Something we were too afraid to do." The debate raged for days. Some species wanted to thank Earth. Others wanted to expel them from the Council. A few wanted to quarantine Earth again, lock them away before they became a threat. Ambassador Ji-Wan arrived from Earth to speak for humanity. She was a career diplomat, skilled at navigating the complex politics of the Council. But even she was shocked by the hostility she faced. "You used weapons of mass destruction," an alien representative accused. "You committed war crimes. We committed survival, Juan replied calmly. The Krethic swarm was going to destroy the Velans. We stopped them. If that's a crime, then charge us. But know that millions of Velans are alive because we broke your rules. You're dangerous, another representative said. Your species evolved on a death world. You know, only violence. Giwan stood. She looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some were afraid. Some were angry. All of them were weak. They had evolved on paradise worlds. They never had to fight for survival. They couldn't understand. You're right, she said. Earth is a death world. Everything there wants to kill you. The weather, the animals, even the plants. We evolved in that nightmare. We had to become strong or die. So yes, we know violence. We're good at it. She pulled up a holographic display. Images of the Velen homeworld. Cities being rebuilt. Children playing in parks. People looking at the sky without fear. But we also know protection, Jiwan continued. We know what it means to stand between the weak and the predators. You asked us to save you. We did. Now you fear us because you finally understand what it took for us to survive our world. We don't apologize for being strong. We apologize that you needed us to be. The chamber fell silent. No one had an answer for that. In the end, the council voted. Admiral Hayon was awarded the Medal of Galactic Service, the highest honor they could give. He was also placed under investigation for war crimes. The vote was split 50-50. Nothing changed. Nothing resolved. Hayon didn't care about medals or investigations. He cared about the distress calls that kept coming. After the news spread about what happened at Velen, other species started reaching out. Civilizations facing extinction. Colonies under attack. Pirates and raiders growing bold. They all sent the same message. Help us, please. We need the Deathworlders. 6 months after the Battle of Velen, Hune stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Indomitable. His fleet had been reinforced. 20 new ships from Earth. Fresh crews eager to prove themselves. The wounded had healed. The dead had been honored. And the work continued. Captain Nari was at her station, ready to launch her fighters at a moment's notice. Commander Tai Yang led training exercises for new Marine teams. Engineer Doyan had pushed the reactors even further, making them more powerful than the designers thought possible. Lieutenant Sora studied tactical displays, always learning, always improving. Private Minho was back on duty. He had a new cybernetic arm built by human engineers. It was stronger than his original. He joked that he should cut off his other arm to match. His unit loved him for it. Dr. Yuna worked with Envoy Lithsaren to establish better relations between Earth and the galaxy. It was slow work. Fear and gratitude mixed into something complicated. But they kept trying. On Earth itself, the government was building new ships. Bigger ones. More powerful ones. They had seen what was out there. They knew someone needed to stand guard. If the galaxy couldn't protect itself, then Earth would do it. Hune received a new distress call. A colony world was under attack by raiders. The local defense fleet was overwhelmed. They needed help. They needed the Deathworlders. He read the message carefully, calculated the distance, checked his fleet's readiness. Then he made his decision. All ships, prepare for departure, he ordered. Set course for the Talus system. Maximum burn. Someone needs help. Captain Nari smiled from her station. Course laid in, Admiral. Ready when you are? Then let's go, Hayon said. We have work to do. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, the Velen system was safe. Ahead of them, people were dying. The galaxy was vast. Full of dangers, full of predators, full of species that had never learned to fight because they never had to. But now they had humans. The species from the Death World, the ones who evolved in violence and learned compassion, the ones who would cross the galaxy to save strangers, the ones who didn't know how to quit. Some species called them heroes. Others called them monsters. The truth was probably somewhere in between. They were survivors. They were warriors. They were protectors. They were human, and they were just getting started. On the Velen homeworld, Children played in parks rebuilt from rubble. They looked up at the stars without fear. In their schools, they learned about Earth, about the planet where everything tried to kill you, about the species that survived anyway. The children asked their teachers, "Why did the humans come? Why did they save us?" The teachers gave the same answer every time: because they could. Because someone needed help. Because that's what Deathworlders do. The galaxy was changing. For thousands of years, it had been peaceful but weak, safe but helpless. Now, humanity had arrived. They brought violence, yes. But they also brought something the galaxy had lost: hope in the darkest corners of space. Predators and raiders heard the stories. They learned about the species that destroyed the Krethic swarm. They learned about the ships covered in weapons. They learned about the warriors who didn't stop fighting even when they lost limbs. They learned about the Deathworlders, and they learned fear. The Galactic Council continued to debate whether humans were too dangerous to be allowed to roam free. While they debated, humans saved 3 more civilizations. Then 5, then 10. Each time they arrived when no one else would. Each time they won fights everyone else thought were impossible. Each time they proved that strength used in defense of others was not barbarism. It was nobility. Admiral Hayne never spoke at the council meetings. He sent Ambassador Jiwan instead. He was too busy answering distress calls, too busy training new crews, too busy preparing for the next battle, because he knew the truth. The galaxy was dangerous. It always had been. The other species just got lucky, evolving on worlds that didn't try to kill them every day. But that luck was running out. The predators were getting bolder. The threats were getting worse. The galaxy needed Deathworlders. It needed humans. Not because humans were better, but because humans were ready. They had been preparing their entire evolutionary history for this moment. Every day fighting to survive on Earth had been training for this.